we start to have we get the what ifs, and we get like the questions of like what game are we going to be seeing, what matchup are we going to be seeing, what race, what player, what map. This is where this is when the fun stuff starts to happen in the this team league king of the hill status or setup.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing what property is going to send out. Again, I feel like Coyote's a notable name. I've definitely seen it before, so I know he's a good player. Um, Looking forward to how he's going to do with the next opponent that property sends out. And, you said that property had Snuffy was from Sweden, I believe
Yeah,
it was.
yeah.
So we had like a
This team is
Swedish.
based in Sweden. Yeah.
So we have a European style play that's being brought over to North America. So I'm wondering if we're going to see anything different, like notably different. It's going to be something that I'm looking forward to.
I mean, there's all sorts of questions that go into it when you're looking at international players playing in in North American tournaments, or North Americans playing in international tournaments. All the like a bunch of other little questions start to come into play. Now, I don't know how significant any of these are, but you brought up the issue of play style. I mean, the Europeans and the Koreans, they obviously play a much different play style than what we play over here in North America. A better example than the Europeans is the Koreans. If you guys have ever played on the Korean server, like that is just it's a mess how much different the way that they play StarCraft over the way that we play StarCraft over here. But also there's other sorts of things you might want to consider is like the distance between like servers, so like a potential lag issue that might come into play. I mean, all those sorts of things might be a factor when you're looking at online tournaments. Now, is this ever enough to to really make a difference in a series? I don't know, because I haven't played in European tournaments before. I can't really tell you what that looks like, but it is definitely something that's like worth thinking about off to the side when we're in between games like this. What I'm a little bit more curious about is what sort of player we're going to be seeing from Property coming up next. I'm looking at their roster right now. They're very light on Protoss, as a matter of fact. They only have one Protoss player in their academy on their Wikipedia page. It's really just Terrans and Zergs at this point.
I wonder if that has something to do with you don't really see very many good Swedish Terran players though. There's a lot of toss.
There is one good Swedish Terran player, though.
Oh yeah, of course, the Spoon Terran, right?
Yeah.
The Spoon Terran. We have a yeah. But Andrew, why don't you go ahead and give it a shout out to our sponsors?
I would love to, Ajax. We've got our just a quick thank you to all of our sponsors that help make the ISTL possible. We have Fourth Angel. They were the music that were playing in the interlude there. That one song that we played by them all the time is Not Hollywood. It's a pretty catchy song, if I do say so myself. We've got CSN, the Cyber Sports Net. They are contributing this season for the MVP award. Big thank you to them. They do a lot of supporting of not just the ISTL, but all sorts of other smaller tournaments across the StarCraft 2 community. So big thank you to CSN. Also, Vivid Arts. I think Buddha was mentioning a promotion that he was giving out last time, which was if you are a Masters or Grandmasters StarCraft player, he actually does stream-related overlay art for free, I believe. So if you want to hit him up about that offer, it might still be valid. It might not still be valid because we're promoting it. He might be like swamped right now, so he can't do it anymore. But nonetheless, hit this guy up. He is at Insidia SC2 on Twitter. That is also jason.pun, JAYSON.PUN@gmail.com. Give that guy your contact information and see if he can do any work for you. Thank you once again to Vivid Arts for their contributions to the Indie StarCraft Team League, as well as Maxed Out Studios. This guy's been with us since last season. He's a great sponsor. That's Max at maxedoutstudios.com. Once again, more graphic design work. If you want to check that out, you can find him on maxedoutstudios.com. He's also on YouTube. Big thank you to all of our sponsors, and also to Impulse Esports for all of the organization and everything that they do to make the ISTL possible. So it does look like we have our next game coming up, and this is going to be another Zerg versus Zerg, and this time it is going to be Buffy coming out for Team Property.
Yeah, we got Property Buffy. Is he going to be able to slay coyotes though? You already know that.
Buffy the Coyote Slayer.
Buffy the Coyote Slayer.
You will definitely get that nickname from me if he manages to come away with this victory. It is going to be on WCS Daybreak. So once again, another Zerg versus Zerg, but this time it will be on Daybreak. And Daybreak is a much different map for Zerg versus Zerg than Cloud Kingdom is. We'll be talking about that as soon as we get this game loaded up. But the countdown has started. We're going to be loading into this game in just a moment. Once again, this is the ISTL season number 3. I am Vindicator, and with me is Ajax. This is our second series of the day, so if our casting starts to sound a little fatigued at this point, it's because we've already been through one best of 7, but we are in the middle of another best of 7. Hey, a 42-minute TVT in that last series does manage to take its toll on almost anybody. You can ask Artosis and Tasteless about that. They've said it themselves, too. So we're going to do our introduction for our very first player here, Ajax.
Well, down here in the bottom left, he is a newcomer. I haven't seen his name yet. Straight from Sweden. We have Property Buffy.
And spawning up here in the top right position for Team Optik, managing to put his team up 1-0 in this best of 7 series in that last game, thanks to a brilliant display of Roaches and Zerglings and a well-executed timing attack. He is our blue Zerg player. He is Optik Coyote.
I'm really interested to see if we see any cheese, to be honest. A lot of people are like, oh, he's so far away. This is the biggest map in the map pool. I'm safe to take my natural at 15. Well, sometimes you aren't, because if they drop down that early pool, you get punished so hard. But it doesn't look like that's happening now. It's going to be standard again, the standard 15 pool probably, which is just prevents any early aggression from any Zerg, cheese that's possible right now.
I don't always like to correct my co-casters, Ajax, but we do have one map in this map pool that is bigger than Daybreak. It's Whirlwind. Whirlwind is such a big map.
I haven't much experience with that. To be honest, I don't really know where is Whirlwind played. What tournaments?
GSL. It was played in the GSL in the last season, and I think the NASL might have adopted it. I'll have to double check on that one, but it was definitely played in the GSL last season. I think it's actually still in the map play. I know they also added that new map, Atlantic City, or Abyssal City. So, but it was definitely in the map pool last season. I know that we saw a Warp Prism, or not a Warp Prism, but a Blink Stalker all in the finals from Seed and MC on that map. So. But it's an enormous map, so this isn't the safest map for Zergs and Zerg versus Zerg. It's definitely at least the second safest, though.
Yeah, and we see an earlier gas for Buffy, just indicative that he wants that faster speed. Again, it doesn't matter what time your spawning pool gets up, as long as you have that 100 gas, you can get it whenever, But, he's going to have that faster speed, and then let's just see if he pulls those drones off of gas, or if he continues to harvest. Again, this map is very easy for Baneling all-ins just because of how open the natural is. If you don't defend it well, you need at least 2 queens to block the ramp. And, very open sides for a lot of Ling run-bys. So I'm really interested to see if he stops. It doesn't look like he's stopping at 100 gas, so we might see some early aggression from Buffy.
And one of the big things I wanted to talk about a little bit, you alluded to it, which I'm happy you did, is the layout of the natural and how wide open it is, especially compared to Cloud Kingdom. Like this choke must be like twice as long, or twice as wide, as the choke that's in the Cloud Kingdom version. So there's also a secondary attack path leading into the natural, and it's very difficult to keep eyes in Zerg versus Zerg on all different approach points. Now, Buffy's doing a good job spotting where his opponent might be moving units out from, and I know that Coyote kind of has like a similar mindset where he's just kind of like parking an overload here so that he can see where the Zerglings move out from there. But as far as the watchtowers go, the watchtowers do not spot the top and bottom attack paths on Daybreak. Really, the watchtowers will spot you if you go into the middle of the map next to the watchtowers, but also if you try to go through that center that's blocked off by the debris. But if you try and go all the way around the top or all the way around the bottom, you can't see that with watchtower placement, and it makes it so that if you're going to go for like heavy baneling attacks, if you're not absolutely diligent in your overlord scouting, you could get taken by surprise, which is not something that happens all that often on Cloud Kingdom.
No, it's not. And Buffy's starting to pull quite a bit of gas right now. Making only one Baneling, no additional lings. So it might be teching, but you know he's been a little bit off. He does have Zerglings going around, scouting his opponent, knowing exactly what's going on. Doesn't see the Roach Warren, and I don't think he will unless he sends another scout in. But you know, Coyote is just playing beautifully. He's setting up that wall, getting ready for any possible Baneling all-ins, making a lot of drones, and actually 12 lings right now too to gain map control. So let's see if he puts any pressure on with those.
You know, Coyote's one of those Zergs, or I'm watching his mechanics right now, and it's almost like he's cheating. Why do I say he's cheating? Well, because he's got more Zerglings than his opponent. He had more drones than his opponent until just a moment ago, and he's getting his lair faster than his opponent. Like, how do you do a build where you're playing the same race as your opponent, but you just have more of everything than him? It's almost like he's cheating. That's how good Coyote's mechanics are. And look at these Zerglings. These Zerglings are going to take Buffy by quite a bit of surprise. But look at that Baneling hit hidden perfectly amongst those drones. All the Zerglings are going to go down. So whatever advantage Coyote had with those Zerglings was quickly taken away from him. And this is an interesting decision by Buffy. He is now going up to +1 melee attacks as well as ground card base. Is this going to be a heavy Zergling Baneling attack, or is he going to be going into Infestor Zergling from here?
Buffy's getting +1/+1 on both of his lings, so it definitely says something about that. He does have quite a few lings right now, and that upgrade advantage is going to give him a big advantage overall right now against his opponent Coyote, since Coyote just doesn't have any upgrades started at all right now.
There's also another problem for Coyote, Ajax. He doesn't really have the Zergling numbers. He needs to contend with the Zerglings of his opponent. And he has no Baneling nest. Oh, yes, he does. He has one Baneling nest. He is morphing in just a couple Banelings over here at his natural level. But these Zerglings are going to be able to do a lot of damage to the third base. Or is he? No, a better position for Coyote. But the superior Zergling numbers of his opponent are going to allow him to do some damage to this hatchery. But the reinforcements are going to force these Zerglings out from Buffy. So not a lot of damage done structurally to each of these Zerg players. But they have traded to quite a few Zerglings at this point.
And, you know, Buffy got his third up faster. The only thing that Coyote has going for him is that his lair was up faster, and he is getting a Spire. So for right now, if he gets at that high Mutalisk count before, and he does have the gas for it as well, he has 900 gas right now. 9 Mutalisks can be spawned instantly, and with that, Buffy has so many Overlords across the map. He could just supply block him for days if he just goes for that alone. But with all these Zerglings just running around, he's keeping Coyote on his toes, which I really like.
Ajax, we have now a Roach Warren and an Infestation pick going up for Buffy, but we already have 9 Mutalisks in production, 11 Mutalisks in production. So there is going to be a window of opportunity for Coyote where his opponent will not have the anti-air he needs to deal with this Mutalisk count. Even when this Infestation pit finishes, you still need to research pathogen glands before those infestors are really all that useful. So how much damage is Coyote going to be able to do with these Mutalisks? He's not going to be able to just stick to Mutalisks. He's going to have to eventually transition out of them. We have a Zergling run by coming over here for Buffy. He is moving into the main base of his opponent. Those Baneling hits were not good enough to actually hold back all of those Zerglings. And actually, better than the numbers is actually the fact that they had +1 armor. By +1 armor makes a huge difference in allowing Zerglings to withstand a single Baneling hit. So these Zerglings are going to be doing a lot of damage to Coyote. Meanwhile, the Mutalisks from Coyote are actually doing some damage to the main base of Buffy. Sport Callers are going down, but Queens are going down also, so both sides are actually trading a lot of economic damage at this point. But I think at this point, the supply advantage is still there for Coyote, and pathogen glands are just now at that point where you can start making infestors, but these Mutalisks are doing a lot of damage to the main base of Buffy, and his bank is very, very low.
Besides killing off Spores and Queens, he's really not doing that much economical damage, though. He is forcing quite a few Spores, but he could have taken out the Infestation Pit, which I think is a very big blunder on his part. If he would have gotten that, he would have gotten Pathogen Glands, and he would have put his opponent way further behind. He did lose his third, and he is continuing to suffer big drone loss right now to these run-bys with +1/+1 moves.
These upgrades are making such a huge difference. These upgrades are making such a huge difference in these Zergling on Zergling engagements. Just the Zerglings are remaining so cost efficient for Buffy, but the presence of these Mutalisks on the map are going to allow him to continue to clean up Overlords. They are going to allow him to continue to get map vision, but look at Buffy. He's just not quitting on these Zergling attacks, and the superior upgrades of them are just going to allow them to remain cost efficient throughout the entire course until upgrades for his opponent start to finish. And look at the supply for both these players. They were both up at pretty high supply counts, and now they've both been reduced to sub 100 supply. Buffy is actually supply blocked at 62 supply thanks to those Mutalisks sniping down Overlords. And I think these Mutalisks sniping down Overlords are going to put an end to this Zergling pressure from Buffy. He can't afford to replace all of those Zerglings because he doesn't have the supply to support it.
But then again, you know, Buffy's already on Infestors. Infestors are where you want to be with Zerg. One fungal on that Mutalisk cloud, it's gone. I mean, there's no turning back. His infestation pit's about halfway done. That's going to help him out as soon as that finishes. But the upgrade disadvantage with the Lings is such a big thing. Just the 2 armor on the Lings alone gives them so much pressure. And, you know, they don't die easily to Mutalisks anymore. Or even to Lings, or even to Banelings, they don't get one shot anymore. So it's definitely going to be a very strong point for Buffy to continue to use these Lings for these run-bys and such.
The drone count has evened out at 44 for both of our Zerg players. There is definitely a very strong divergence in the way that these two players are teching. It doesn't really look like Buffy wants to go for a very heavy roach play, but Coyote is going to try and transition into roaches from here. He already has 6 roaches coming out on the field. Pathogen glands are about halfway done for him, but these Mutalisks are just continuing to delay any sort of push that Buffy can really do because they keep hunting down Overlords. And every single Overlord that dies is units that Buffy can't really make because he doesn't have the supply to actually produce them. But here comes something interesting, Ajax. We've got some Infestor death squads actually moving out on the field right now.
And they're coming across, and nothing's there to scout them. We do have one Overseer positioned perfectly at the choke, but he's moving his roaches. No, the roaches could have sniped that. And out come all these infested Terrans. He's definitely going to lose a patch.
Yeah, that is a lot of infested Terrans. Those infestors for Coyote got dunked down so fast, and look at all these free units. Those infestors are going to get away for sure. The infested Terrans are targeting down the hatchery of Coyote. These infested Terrans are doing so much damage to the Zerglings of Coyote. Drones might go down. The Baneling nest goes down. The Roach Warren is now being targeted by these infested Terrans, and look at this attack from Buffy, just doing so much damage with those free units, but now without, well, actually there is still some Infestor energy. These Infestors could actually unburrow if they wanted to and actually take down all of those Mutalisks, but I don't think that Buffy realizes it. If he takes down those Mutalisks, that is going to actually eliminate the last remaining advantage that his opponent has, but he's not doing it. Coyote is now down to 2 actual functioning hatcheries, and one of those is already in the yellow health, and the economy for Coyote is just so battered at this point.
Yeah, I don't really see... I see Buffy is in kill mode right now. He smells blood. He knows what he can do right now. And, oh, the Lings are just killing so many drones of it the third, and no doubt can get this hatchery. And yeah, they're going straight for it, and they're going to get it. And, you know, Buffy's in such a commanding lead now, and he has... What is this? It's... I can't do math. I'm going to embarrass myself, but it's a lot of Infestors. And, you know, Coyote just doesn't have an answer anymore. He just doesn't have an answer for the upgrades, the tech advantage, the number of Infestors in general.
There are 15 Infestors out on the field right now for our red Zerg player. And look at this, though. I mean, aside from the fact that he just has more units out on the field, he's just staying so cost-efficient at that point. He was able to take down an Infestor with Zerglings. Like, he's taking out hatcheries with those Zerglings. And Buffy or Coyote is down to a single mining base. He's trying to remake his natural, but I mean, these constant Zergling run-bys are going to continue to force Infestor energy to be used. And meanwhile, behind this, like you were alluding to, the Infestor count for Buffy is just getting higher and higher, and now I think all of the Mutalisks for Coyote have actually died as well. He's down to 4 Mutalisks after a bunch of Mutalisks were actually caught at the 3rd base.
Yeah. And right now, you know, Buffy's in a commanding lead in every single way. He's got an additional base. He even burrowed a Ling right where he could pop it down 3rd at, you know, Coyote's 3rd. And he's playing so well. And he's even going to get these last few Mutalisks, clean them up. He has so many infestors. And yeah, Coyote doesn't really have an answer for this anymore.
Yeah, well, I think at this point, guys, we are watching a fight that's pretty much almost over. At this point, Buffy's broken Coyote's arm. I mean, Coyote could still fight if he wants to, but he's at a huge disadvantage from here on out. He really needs a beautiful engagement. He needs to snipe a bunch of infestors as they're walking by. He needs to catch Buffy in a really bad position, and Buffy's been playing so well this entire game that I don't think Coyote thinks he can do it, and there's the GG. Coyote taps out knowing the position that he's currently in, and that is going to tie this series up 1-1 after 2 consecutive Zerg versus Zergs.
Very good play from Buffy, showing that he can withstand and he had the superior build. I felt like the Mutalists did a great job. It's just they needed to be more active, and if they would have sniped the infestation pit instead of going for like the spore crawlers or even targeting down banelings. I saw him target down banelings at one point. If he would have taken out the infestation pit, that would have put him back in the game. It could have even possibly won the game for him because, you know, infestation, not to mention the build timing, all that stuff, it would have done a lot more than he got from what those Mutalists did.
I mean, it's so hard to tell though, Ajax, when you're the Mutalist player, and you know that so much of your survival in that game is depending on how cost efficient you are with those Mutalists. It's really a difficult call to make, saying I'm gonna leave all my Mutalists in one spot. I'm gonna have them beat down on this building. If they kill it, they kill it. But if they don't kill it, then all that time they spent attacking the infestation pit, they weren't attacking queens, they weren't attacking overlords, they weren't attacking drones. It's one of those things where it's kind of all or nothing, and Coyote, I think, didn't want to make that call. He wanted to get the guaranteed damage that he knew he could get versus the big critical hit that he might have gotten had he stuck on the infestation pit. And it's easy for us to sit here and make that call of like, oh, this is what he should have done because we get to see everything. But it's a much more difficult position for Coyote to be in, much more difficult decision for him to make, being in the hot seat and actually having everything else that he has to deal with. So you and I could speculate about whether or not that game would have looked different had he killed the infestation pit. But the fact is that once that infestation pit came out on the field, Buffy played beautifully. He really knew how to handle the Zerg versus Zerg Ling infestor style, and he just made it work to absolute perfection.
He did. It was very well played. And, you know, he showed the advantage of infestors. Not only are they're a stealthing unit that shoots out a unit that can not only block pathing, but prevent any units from basically getting away. He used his own SimCity against him with those infested Terrans. He blocked any escape route from the drones and the queens. Anything that Optik could have done, he prevented just by placing the infested Terrans the way he did. And he got the maximum damage out of it.
You know what, Jay Morrow is actually making this comment. I think I'll just bring it back up again, especially on Daybreak. If you know your opponent's going for infestors, there are two really important spots that you could place overlords or overseers that really kind of negates a lot of the damage that those infestors can do with infested Terrans. One of them is right over the gap leading into the natural where the debris is. You post an overlord there. You're able to see the infestors with enough time to react and catch them in the natural expansion of your own base. The other place you can put them is in the choke leading into the third. You put overseers there, and you just have them there in hold position. And it really allows you to catch those infestors, and even if you lose damage because of those infested Terrans, well, then at least you get to destroy the 150 infestors on top of it, or are they 100 150? Either way, they cost 150 gas. You're able to destroy 150. Yeah. Even if you take the damage from the infested Terrans, the big problem for Coyote in that game is that he was taking all that damage from the infested Terrans, but then he wasn't also killing infestors. So it was free damage for Buffy at the turning point in that game.